Could the 401 get one of the world's longest tunnels? The Premier tables a bold idea to ease traffic congestion.
And the TDSB holding a special meeting tonight to discuss a controversial field trip where students ended up in a rally. They're also hearing from the teachers union.
And the Justin Trudeau government lives to see another day after the Liberals survive a Tory non-confidence vote. We'll take you live to Ottawa.
You're watching Live at 5. Hey there, I'm Phil Perkins.
And I'm Lena Latafat. Thank you for joining us here on Live at 5. Premier Doug Ford is floating an ambitious idea to fight bumper-to-bumper traffic on the 401 in the GTA. He's proposing a 60-kilometer-long tunnel for vehicles and potentially even transit.
Yeah, that's quite the idea. CP24's CJ Liu has the details outside Queen's Park. So yeah, recap this idea for us.
That's right. It is a very ambitious idea, something that would be one of the biggest infrastructures in the world if it were to become a reality. So Premier Doug Ford, he wants to build a massive underground tunnel under the 401, which is the most congested stretch of highway in the country. Now, we are very far from having shovels in the ground. This is just an idea right now. The Ford government will be beginning to look at a feasibility study that will look into how this project can be done. So Ford's vision for this tunnel right now is that it would be an underground roadway up to 60 kilometers long, stretching from as far as Brampton to Scarborough or Markham in the east. It would also connect with major roads and highways along the way. It wouldn't just be for cars as well. He envisions public transit running underneath it too. As for the feasibility study, they will be doing some initial soil testing along the route and reviewing best practices from other cities around the world. As for why this tunnel is needed, I mean, we've all been on the 401 and understand the traffic there. The Ford government says by 2051, traffic could double or triple by then. And within the next decade, traffic on all 400 series highways will exceed their capacity. Here's more from Premier Doug Ford on his very ambitious plan.
We're going to do a feasibility study, look at the cost, and see if we amortize it over a number of years. But it's something that you have to be a visionary. You have to look at the cost of $11 billion a year what's costing our economy. Not to mention, how do you put time on people's lives that are stuck in traffic? They dread the 401, driving down the 401. They dread the Gardiner. People avoid going downtown because of the traffic right now. And we're going to do everything we can in our powers to make sure that we make life a lot easier and get goods from point A to point B in a rapid fashion.
Now, two big questions Premier Doug Ford faced today is what will be the cost of this project and what will be the timeline? He says he doesn't have those answers right now. That's what the feasibility study is for. But he did promise that he will be transparent when it comes to the cost of the construction, although he has not disclosed the cost of other projects in the province, such as Highway 413. But as you can imagine, if this becomes a reality, it will be one of the largest infrastructures in the world, and that will come with a huge price tag. Back to you.
Yeah, no doubt. CJ Liu, thanks so much. I believe the Ontario line's around $30 billion already. And
wow.
That's not 60 kilometers long. All right, there is no shortage of reaction to the idea of building a traffic tunnel under the 401.
CP24's Beatrice Faisman joins us live with what people are saying about this tonight. Beatrice.
Lena, Phil, it depends on who you ask. The Toronto Region Board of Trade first thing this morning tweeting that this was a big, bold idea, that it's these kinds of visionary ideas, they say, that it's going to help ease congestion here in the city. Meantime, if you hear from the opposition leaders at Queen's Park, they're singing a very different tune. Liberal leader Bonnie Crombie wondering who from Doug Ford's developer friends is going to benefit from this financially. Meantime, the NDP leader, the leader of the official opposition, saying this is an idea that was born on the back of a napkin. Here's Marit Stiles.
The Premier cannot dig himself out of the mess that he has created in our province, not even with a fantasy tunnel. This is a serious issue, gridlock, congestion. But this is not a serious proposal. This is not a serious Premier. It is a silly thought from a government that has run out of ideas.
And there are other ideas when it comes to helping ease congestion. For example, the Green Party leader, Mike Schreiner, who I talked to earlier, suggested, and it was echoed by the NDP in a motion last year, to alleviate tolls for truckers along the 407 so that at least they could move goods quicker from point A to point B. It would also get truckers off of the 401 and onto another route. If you can notice behind me, I mean, traffic is pretty much at a standstill here on the 401, both in the express and collectors lanes. No one's going anywhere very quickly. Commuters have been frustrated now for, no, I want to say months, but it's actually been for years by the traffic, and it seems like there's more and more of it. And the experts, when it comes to tunneling here in this province, are saying there are better ways to alleviate congestion. They're worried really about the entry and exit points of this tunnel that would cause chaos as people try to get on and off. Here's one of those experts that we talked to earlier this morning.
We're talking years of planning to study the feasibility, to do the soil testing. This feels much more like a distraction than something that's real. This is just at a scale that's massive. And it's not that we shouldn't have ambition. We do have to solve our problems, but this project will not do it. And to spend a lot of time and resource studying this really takes us away from the hard work that we should be focusing on, which is how to increase public transit, how to encourage people to use other modes of transportation. We have too many cars and not enough space, and that doesn't get solved by building this bigger highway because all the roads around it don't get expanded as well. They will stay the same size and just get more gridlocked.
And by the way, this feasibility study, it's being conducted internally by the government, so within the Ministry of Transportation, not by an external engineering firm. If this all this morning sounded like a political pitch by the Premier, well, it's because he was asked repeatedly if there's an early election coming, possibly in 2025. And certainly people who live in the suburbs of the GTHA who are sick and tired of spending hours behind the wheel, yeah, their votes really count in the vote-rich 905. Back to you guys.
Interesting. All right, Beatrice Vaisman reporting live tonight. Thanks, Beatrice. Let's stay on the roads, get a check on that evening commute with our traffic specialist, Adjoa and Siayabois. How goes it, Adj?
It is very, very slow, Lena. And, you know, we need some sort of alternative route if you're trying to make your way around because traffic is not moving because of problems as well. So, Toronto bound on the QEW, if you're trying to get out of Burlington, this is on the approach to Appleby line. This problem's getting a whole lot worse. Now cars are just weaving by on the shoulder because the HOV lane and all the lanes in between are blocked because of this pretty serious collision. They put pylons in place, a sign that this could be there for the next little bit. Delays extend from before Brant. Then QEW Niagara bound also slow downs just as you make your way through Fairview, where the center lane is blocked with the collision. Also problems on the westbound lanes of the Gardner. They continue. Stalled dump truck off to the side, approaching Parkside. And you will find the right lane is out. And getting rid of some brand new problems. Yep, here they are. This is on the 401 westbound. It's the exit ramp that does take you to Keele. Center lane blocked with a stall. Does look like MTO is trying to clear that scene.
This CP24 traffic report is brought to you by 407 ETR. Enjoy the journey with a stress-free commute.
All right, it is 5:08, feeling like 30 outside. You're watching Live at 5. Coming up, the Toronto District School Board will hold a special meeting tonight to discuss a controversial student field trip to a rally last week. Welcome back. The TDSB holding a special meeting tonight to discuss a controversial student field trip to a rally last week.
Yeah, let's go live now to CP24's Andrew Brennan, who's outside TDSB headquarters. The TDSB has apologized for this. What are they hoping comes out of tonight's meeting, Andrew?
Well, what they're hoping for is to try to quell some fears, give an indication of what kind of planning will be done, as the education minister has even called for an investigation here, Lena. And we are anticipating seeing some people in the not only in the audience, but potentially outside a protest in response to a protest, going back to a week ago today, demonstration in support of Grassy Narrows, a First Nations community that's dealt with mercury poisoning and methyl mercury now in the water as well due to wastewater combination. And during that demonstration, marching through the streets of Toronto, there were videos showing children from several different TDSB schools that we knew were part of this original demonstration and the march that were filmed. These were also young children. us taking part in chants that included from Turtle Island to Palestine, occupation is a crime. Many parents taking umbrage with the infiltration of politics, not in the classroom, but in the curriculum, even going as far as saying that this was a form of indoctrination, something that was echoed by the Premier in his statements, also in saying that there were teachers that he said that were trying to indoctrinate students, and as he put it, they should go back to their knitting. Now, in response to that, the elementary teachers of Toronto releasing a statement a few hours ago saying, once again, we see an Indigenous communities issues dismissed and the story buried. We see the vilification of links made between solidarity movements on Turtle Island and Palestine, and we see as well, it says, TDSB staff and trustees publicly weighing in before any process has actually been undertaken or completed. Now, we're expecting tonight to be a part of that process and we're expecting to at least hear during this meeting from the chair and various trustees, some who have spoken out already saying that they were blindsided by this taking part in not the original gathering for Grassy Narrows and solidarity thereof, but the marching and protests, and that there must be a distinction between those two. We will be here as more people are expected to come out and also try to get an understanding from the TDSB what is going to be coming out of this meeting, potentially before, but we'll certainly be here to monitor it as it's happening. We're going to send it back inside for now and keep a close eye on TDSB HQ here on Yonge Street. Lena, Phil, back to you.
Thank you, Andrew. Well, a recent look at the future of housing in the GTA suggests high development fees are hindering the building of new homes.
Yeah, the Building Industry and Land Development Association looked at fees, taxes, and approvals in various cities across the GTA. They found the number of applications for new housing projects declined between 2021 and 23. Lagging approvals means that the cost of building new homes went up. Some municipalities are also charging upwards of $100,000 in development fees, even for low-rise homes.
And Justin Sherwood with Build says change is needed to hit the federal government's goal of building more than 3.7 million homes by 2031.
In August, we saw housing starts actually decline in the GTA and across the country. And I think it is a very ambitious target that we have in order to build that kind of volume of new homes. But we have to try because we have more and more people arriving in Canada every day. We have young people that are looking to be able to get into their first home. And quite frankly, failure is not an option.
Now, the report found the average timeline for a development approval in the GTA is a little over 20 months, which Bill describes as excessively high.
All right, let's go to the nation's capital right now. MPs have voted on a non-confidence motion in the House of Commons.
Yeas pour 120 nays contre 211 211.
No shortage of political drama on the Hill today. The motion was defeated by a vote of 211 to 120. The motion was brought forward by Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre in an attempt to take down the government and force an early election. The NDP and Bloc Québécois previously said they would not support the motion. And CTV's political commentator Scott Reed spoke about the significance of the vote for the Conservatives, even though the motion failed.
We wanted to get the NDP and the Bloc on the record so that he can make the argument, look, don't believe what they say. When push comes to shove, these two parties support the government. He wants to link them to the government. He wants to be the only opposition leader whenever we get to a campaign that can claim that he uniformly opposed the government. So that's objective number one. And that's why you're going to continue to see him introduce confidence motions. He wants to single himself out. He wants to associate the NDP and the Bloc with the government.
Let's talk provincial politics right now. Brampton North MPP Graham McGregor has been named to fill in for the Citizenship and Multiculturalism Minister after Michael Ford had his leave of absence from cabinet.
Right, McGregor is the current Associate Minister of Auto Theft and Bail Reform. Ford announced last week that he was taking a leave to prioritize his health and well-being over the next couple of months. That includes his duties representing the riding of York South-Weston. And Ford was elected as an MPP for York South-Weston 2 years ago. Before that, he served as a city councillor for Ward 1 from 2016 to 2022. He is the nephew of Premier Doug Ford and late former Toronto Mayor Rob Ford.
516, feeling like 31 and watching live at 5.
Well, coming up, at least 2 Canadians have died in the escalating violence in Lebanon. This comes as Israel's military says is preparing for a possible ground operation in that country. We'll be right back with more.
Welcome back. Israel is considering a ground operation into Lebanon.
Yeah, that's according to the Israeli army chief who was addressing troops on the northern border. He said the latest Israeli airstrikes were designed to prepare the ground for your possible entry and to continue degrading Hezbollah. The death toll from the past 3 days of airstrikes on Lebanon has risen to 615 people, according to Lebanon's health minister. And 2 Canadians have been killed in Lebanon amid a major escalation between Israel and Hezbollah. The family of Hussein and Dad Tabaja say they were killed by an airstrike while stuck in heavy traffic as they fled their home in southern Lebanon. Their burnt-out vehicle was found at the side of a road after their family hadn't heard from them in hours. And Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly is urging Canadians in Lebanon to leave the country as tensions continue to escalate with Israel.
I've been saying to Canadians in Lebanon to come back home. And I've been saying also to Canadians wanting to go to Lebanon, don't go. Why? Because as Foreign Minister, my priority is to make sure that Canadians are safe. And I was concerned. And so, of course, we will never let down the Canadian Lebanese community. At the same time, what I say to Canadians now in Lebanon, not only is it time to leave, but also commercial flights are still available. And it is, at the end of the day, the most safe and the simplest way to come back home.
And sirens blaring in Tel Aviv after a missile was launched by Hezbollah in the militant group's deepest strike into Israel. Yet, the Israeli military said it intercepted the projectile and then hit the site where it was launched from. Hezbollah said it targeted the headquarters of Israel's Mossad intelligence agency, which it blames for the killings of its commanders and for an attack in which explosives hidden in pagers killed dozens and wounded thousands, including civilians and Hezbollah members. And Hezbollah has launched dozens of rockets into northern Israel as well, following days of heavy Israeli airstrikes across large parts of southern and eastern Lebanon. The Israeli military says more than 40 projectiles were launched at the same time, though most were intercepted. And U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with foreign ministers from the Gulf Cooperation Council member states in New York. He acknowledged the risk of escalation in the Middle East and says that work is underway to avoid a full-blown war between Israel and Hezbollah.
We meet at a time of high tension. Risk of escalation in the region is acute, and I know that we are all very much focused on that. The best answer is diplomacy. And our coordinated efforts are vital to preventing further escalation and to paving the path to greater peace and stability. With regard to Lebanon, we've been working tirelessly with partners to avoid a full-blown war and to move to a diplomatic process that would allow Israelis and Lebanese alike to go back to their homes.
And police say 2 arrests were made after a protest downtown last night.
Yeah, the All Out for Lebanon rally was held outside the Israeli consulate at Yonge and Bloor. Police say when officers tried to arrest 2 women for painting the sidewalk, there was a brief foot pursuit before one pulled out a baseball bat and the other tried to grab an officer's duty belt. 2 women are facing multiple charges, including mischief and assault with intent to resist arrest.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy spoke about ending the war at the UN General Assembly today.
It's the Ukrainian people who feel the full pain of this war. It's Ukrainian children who are learning to distinguish the sounds of different types of artillery and drones because of Russia's war. It's our people who are forcefully separated by occupation because Putin decided he could do whatever he wants. It's our heroic soldiers who are giving their lives to defend our country from invaders trying to steal our land. That's why we say, rightfully so, there can be no just peace without Ukraine.
That's Zelenskyy speaking about the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Now, he wants any peace agreement make sure it includes the expulsion of all Russian forces from Ukraine and accountability for war crimes.
It is now 5:23, 24 degrees. This is Live at 5.
Now, coming up, we'll take a look at a new study that finds picky eating is not about your parenting, how good or bad it is. It's about your genetics.
Welcome back. Well, a member of the Ottawa Senators can empathize with a lot of car owners after having his own vehicle stolen.
That's tough. Glageroux's wife posting on social media this morning that their husband's car was stolen last night and was currently actively driving.
Oh,
I guess they have a pin on it. Glageroux also complained about how hard it was to reach Ottawa police. The police service later responded by telling her to call 911 for any crime in progress. I wonder what they called. Drew wasn't speaking about it at the Senator's practice this morning. Police crime data shows nearly 1,200 vehicles have been stolen in Ottawa this year. That's about 5 per day. Across the country, the Insurance Bureau of Canada says that the cost of stolen vehicles for the industry has jumped more than 500% from 5 or 6 years ago.
Well, if you have kids, and Phil, I know
I have one.
You have one. I don't know if Reese is a picky eater, but if he is, well, turns out that you can blame genetics on that. A new study published last week in the Journal of Child Psychology and Psychiatry finds parent styling has very little to do with picky eating. Researchers surveyed parents of 4,800 twins for 12 years. They found at 16 months, 60% of food fussiness was actually genetic, and that rose to between 74 and 84% in kids aged 3 to 13. Separate studies have shown high levels of stress and anxiety among parents of picky eaters. The study authors hope these findings will help alleviate parents' feelings of guilt and blame.
Both me and my wife like pickled food, so he's gonna love kimchi. He's gonna love sauerkraut, bigas. He's also gonna love.
Oh, that sounds delicious.
It's all the best. White rice, it's all and peanut butter jelly
he's
sandwich.
Not picky, is what you're trying to tell me.
No, but he doesn't like sauce, which is weird. I love sauce and everything, but
maybe that'll change.
Yeah, genetics, it'll kick in late. Who knows? All right. Well, convicted con artist Anna Sorokin's controversial run in Dancing with the Stars has come to an end.
Also known as Anna Delvey, if you remember the show from Netflix, Sorokin was the subject of a Netflix true crime series titled Inventing Anna. This was fascinating. She posed as a wealthy German heiress to gain access to high-class circles in New York and was convicted of defrauding socialites, banks, and hotels all along the way. She had to wear the ankle monitor on the show as she's technically under house arrest pending her deportation case.
What a strange decision.
Yeah.
What are we going to do? We don't make those calls. It is 5:28, feeling like 31. You're watching Live at 5.
Well, the Ford government wants to build a tunnel under the 401 to deal with traffic. We'll have reaction to that idea coming up next. Stay with us.
Could the 401 get one of the world's longest tunnels? Premier Ford tables a bold idea to ease traffic congestion.
The TDSB is holding a special meeting tonight to discuss a controversial field trip where students ended up at a rally. We're also hearing from the teachers union.
And the Justin Trudeau government lives to see another day after the Liberals survive a Tory non-confidence vote. We'll take it live to Ottawa.
You're watching Live at 5. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Lena Latafat.
And I'm Phil Perkins. You're watching Live at 5. Okay, Premier Doug Ford floating a pretty ambitious idea to fight bumper-to-bumper traffic on the 401 in the GTA. He's proposing a 60-kilometer-long tunnel for passenger vehicles as well as transit.
Yeah, CP24's Sija Liu has all the details. This is a bold idea, Sija.
Yeah, very ambitious. Just try to imagine this. You're driving on the 401. There are 2 levels. He is proposing an underground tunnel. It could be around 60 kilometers long, stretching anywhere from Brampton, Mississauga in the west to Scarborough or Markham in the east. And he says this tunnel wouldn't just be for cars. It would also be for public transit. And if this idea becomes a reality, it would be one of the longest tunnels in the world, one of the largest infrastructure projects in the world. Now, we are nowhere near breaking ground on this project. This is just an idea right now. The Ford government is exploring a feasibility study, so they're just going to look into how this project can become a reality. As for why he says this project is needed, he says by 2051, traffic times will triple on the 401, and in just a decade, all 400 series highways will exceed capacity. Here's more from Premier Doug Ford on the feasibility plan, the feasibility study, and what they'll be looking at.
Through this feasibility work, we'll figure out the best way to get this project done, including initial soil testing along the route, reviewing best practices from other jurisdictions, and getting a clear understanding of how this tunnel can fight gridlock and support the economy. I know this is an ambitious idea, and that some people will say it can't be done, or that we shouldn't even try. But these are the same people who oppose every project.
And Doug Ford did face a lot of questions about the cost and timeline of this project today. He says he doesn't have those answers. That's what the feasibility study is for. But he did say that you can't put a price on the amount of time we're stuck in traffic. And he also says our economy loses about $11–12 billion a year because of productivity loss caused by gridlock. So as for the cost, that is something he can't say right now until after the feasibility study. But he did promise that he will be transparent once he knows what the price is, despite him not sharing the cost of some other projects in the province like Highway 413. But as you can imagine, this will be one of the biggest projects in the world, infrastructure projects, if it becomes a reality. So you're definitely going to be looking somewhere in the multi-billions of dollars. Back to you.
Oh, yeah, this would be a massive undertaking, and who knows how much it would cost. Sija Liu, live at Queen's Park tonight. Sija, thanks so much. From Queen's Park to the roads, to the 401 to be exact, the idea of a tunnel under this expressway, that's certainly generating a lot of reaction from politicians, experts, professors. Everyone's got something to say. Here is some of that reaction.
Other cities recently are moving away from building these bigger tunnels especially under existing highways. These have been catastrophically expensive. The risk is huge. The likelihood of cost overruns and delays is massive. So this is a huge risk on the cost and construction side, but also it won't actually solve the problem. You're just going to be funneling more traffic onto existing roads that don't have the capacity when people get off of these highways. The gridlock is also at the interchanges, and those interchange points are not going to get bigger, nor are the side streets around these roads. So really, you're just funneling more traffic onto our already busy streets.
Why would we do that? Has he thought about this for more than 5 minutes? We are looking at years of traffic chaos, disruption, billions of taxpayer dollars. And if you look at the track record of what happened in Boston, no real improvements to congestion.
I don't trust what the premier is going to put forward. So what I'm calling on this government to do is to, one, have an independent study, but more importantly, let's implement solutions that will improve people's lives right now. Pay tolls for truckers, build homes people can afford in the communities they love so you don't have to commute so far, invest in expanding transit options. There are a number of cheaper and quicker solutions to gridlock than what the premier is proposing.
I expect that what we will see are costs of a couple or a few $1 billion per kilometer. So in my mind, I always go to who's going to benefit from all this? Which of Doug Friend's cozy rich insiders are going to benefit from such a scheme? That's where my mind goes. So if you have a pricing at hundreds of billions of dollars to build a pipe dream fairy tale tunnel under the 401, how could that money could have been better spent?
All right, 5:36, 31 degrees from pipe dreams to, I guess, traffic nightmares.
I like what you did there.
I don't know what I just did.
You know. If you like a little bit of, I'm not going to say it. If your drive is not looking too good, you can blame it on a couple of problems. Been watching them. It's always not the easiest drive this afternoon or any afternoon when you're on the GTA highways. So watching a problem adding to your slow drive on the westbound lanes of the Gardner. This is just at Parkside. This problem's been there for the last hour. They're waiting on heavy tows. So dump truck off to the side. side. We are dealing with Toronto Transportation on scene. And then some good news. We had problems on the QEW Niagara bound through Walkers. Center lane was blocked with a stall. It cleared. Further west on the QEW. The problem's getting worse. This is right at Fairview. 2 left lanes out following a crash, and even more problems on a ramp. This is on the 401 westbound exit ramp to Keele. Center lane out with a stalled truck just getting hooked up to tow. I'll send it back to you guys.
Adjoa, thanks so much for this.
You're welcome.
Also making news tonight, the Toronto police officer charged in the death of a 19-year-old Brampton man took the stand in his own defense today. Constable Calvin Aud denied using excessive force when he brought 19-year-old Chad Facey to the ground in April 2021. Facey had just sold a fake Apple Watch to Aud's friend and fellow Toronto police officer Gurmak Benning. Both were off duty at the time. Aud told the court he did not see Facey's face or head hit the ground. Facey's sister has testified he showed obvious signs of medical distress when he returned home and had a bump on his forehead. He was taken to hospital and died hours later. Ah is charged with assault causing bodily harm. The trial continues tomorrow.
And a woman was sent to hospital with critical injuries after being hit by a vehicle in Mississauga. This happened around 5 o'clock this morning on Burnhamthorpe Road, just east of Cawthra. Peel police say that the driver involved remained at the scene.
It is 5:38, 24 degrees, feeling more like 31. You're watching Live at 5.
Coming up, the TDSB will be holding a special meeting tonight to discuss a controversial student field trip to a rally last week.
Welcome back. The Toronto District School Board is holding a special meeting tonight to discuss a controversial student field trip to a rally last week.
Let's say hello to CP24's Andrew Brennan outside TDSB headquarters, teeing this big meeting up. Andrew.
Yeah, Phil, Lena, the TDSB has already apologized for saying it didn't believe that this was going to happen. It thought that this would be an educational experience for students from roughly a dozen schools that took part in a solidarity march called the River Run for the Grassy Narrows First Nation, a First Nation that has had either mercury poisoning because of wastewater currently or historically because of mercury actually in the water, poisoning the water and fish, and roughly 90% of people in the First Nation who at this point have documented symptoms of mercury poisoning. But this all changed, and the discourse surrounding this rally changed after videos like the one we're going to show you now started surfacing. This video is one of a few that were taken by concerned parents who said that they were not advised or didn't realize that their children would be taking part in a protest that went from, was again, all about the Grassy Narrows First Nation and its strife, but because of historical solidarity that has been seen between the Palestinian self-determination cause and Indigenous advocates in Canada, there was a chant that was said as part of this protest that said, "From Turtle Island to Palestine, occupation is a crime." And according to some parents that were actually rallying outside of the TDSB yesterday, they said that not only was this an infiltration of politics into the classroom and outside of the classroom for a curriculum activity like this, but they also referred to it, at least some did, as a form of indoctrination of their children, which they didn't want to stand for. And they said the TDSB should have known better. Similar comments echoed by the Premier, who said that there were a certain number of teachers, a small minority, he said, that were in the process of trying to indoctrinate children with their politics. He ultimately said yesterday that these teachers should stick to their knitting. The Teachers Federation for Toronto, the elementary Teachers of Toronto Association, released a statement earlier on today in response to that, pointing the finger at Doug Ford, saying that instead of looking at a teachable moment and finding some common ground, they said that he had failed the test and said once again, we see Indigenous community issues dismissed and their story buried. We see the vilification of links made between solidarity movements on Turtle Island and Palestine. And we see TDSB staff and trustees publicly weighing in before any process has actually been undertaken or completed. And there have been some trustees who have come out who said that they do not support what happened and they're trying to get to the bottom of it. Part of the reason why we are expected to hear quite a bit at the special meeting happening at 7 o'clock tonight, and we're also expecting in the next few minutes or so people that want their voices heard to show up outside of Toronto District School Board HQ. For now, we'll send it back to you both inside.
Andrew, thanks so much. Let's talk about housing. A recent look at the future of housing in the GTA suggests that high development fees are hindering the building of new homes. The Building Industry and Land Development Association looked at fees, taxes, and approvals in various cities across the GTA. They found the number of applications for new housing projects dropped between 2021 and 2023. They say that lagging approvals means that the cost of building new homes went up. Some municipalities are also charging upwards of $100,000 in development fees, even for low-rise homes.
One of the key findings is that housing construction is not really keeping pace with the population growth we're seeing. And in part, some of the challenges that we're seeing are slow approval timeframes really are slowing the amount of supply and new supply that can come to the market at any one time.
The report found that the average timeline for development approval in the GTA is a little over 20 months, nearly 2 years, which Bill describes as, quote, excessively high.
Well, MPs have voted on a non-confidence motion in the House of Commons.
120 120, nays contre, 211 211.
The motion was defeated by a vote of 211 to 120. The motion brought forward by Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre in an attempt to take down the government and force an early election. The NDP and Bloc previously said they would not support the motion. Now, before the vote, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre and Prime Minister Trudeau got into a heated exchange during question period.
Today, we will see that this House does not have confidence in the leader of the Conservative Party. Mr. Speaker, we have delivered, are continuing to deliver, reduced emissions, more money in the pockets of Canadians, and success in the fight against climate change as we create jobs and build a stronger future. We are focused on delivering for Canadians the things that actually matter, while he's focused on slogans and clapping. Mr. Speaker, we're going to focus on being there for Canadians.
Mr. Speaker, he's concerned that we're clapping for him. He agreed to a carbon tax election on his quadrupling of the tax to 61 cents a litre, where Canadians will choose between an NDP Liberal government that has taxed their food, punished their work, doubled their housing costs, and unleashed crime and chaos in their communities, or a common-sense Conservative government to axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime. He's bragging that he has more politicians on his side. Isn't it really the case that in Canada, the people decide?
And Bloc Québécois leader Yves-François Blanchet is threatening to topple the Liberal government if two of his bills aren't passed by the end of October. The Bloc wants to see the passage of a bill that would expand old age security and increase payments by 10%. They also want to pass a private member's bill that would bolster the supply management system and exempt some farm sectors from future trade deals.
What we are proposing is good for retired persons in Quebec, but also in Canada. It's good for milk and eggs and poultry product producer in Quebec, but also in Canada. So that's good for everybody. However, we will not ever support any motion or vote that would go against who we are. And who we are is well known. We will not vote in favor of something going against French language in Quebec or even in Canada.
And CTV political commentator Scott Reed says the Bloc Québécois is adding to the uncertainty about an early election with two demands they made today.
They said, one, they want to see the OAS, the seniors' benefits. They want to see those increase. That's a billions and billions and billions of dollars price tag. The second thing, they want all Quebec producers, dairy farmers, poultry. They want them all exempted from future trade negotiations with the United States or other nations. Well, that's going to be impossible for the government to deliver. You just simply can't say to the United States, you know what, leave Quebec alone, but we're happy to put the rest of the country up for grabs. So that will not be delivered upon, that commitment, and want to see how the Bloc play their cards at the end of October.
Canada's population growth slowed in the last quarter of the year as the government worked to reduce temporary migration. This is the first slowdown since 2020, when hardly anyone came to the country due to COVID border closures. International migration accounts almost entirely for the increase to Canada's population. StatsCan finds that the number of non-permanent residents continue to grow, but the rate has been slowing since last fall. Canada's population reached nearly 41.3 million people as of this past July.
It is now 5:48, 24 degrees. Feeling more like 31. You're watching Live at 5.
Coming up, at least 2 Canadians have died in the escalating violence in Lebanon. This comes as Israel's military preparing for a possible ground operation.
Well, Israel is considering a ground operation into Lebanon.
Yeah, that's according to the Israeli army chief who was addressing his troops on the northern border. He said the latest Israeli airstrikes were designed to, quote, prepare the ground for your possible entry and to continue degrading Hezbollah. The death toll from the past 3 days of airstrikes on Lebanon has risen to 615 people. This according to Lebanon's health minister. And 2 Canadians have been killed in Lebanon amid the major escalation between Israel and Hezbollah. The family of Hussein and Dad Tabaja says that they were killed by an airstrike while stuck in traffic as they were fleeing southern Lebanon. Their burnt-out vehicle was found on the side of the road after their family hadn't heard from them in hours. And Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly urging Canadians in Lebanon to leave the country as these tensions continue to escalate.
Canada is a friend to the Lebanese people, to the Israeli people, and also to the Palestinian people. More than ever, we need also a ceasefire in Gaza. Hostages must be released, Hamas must lay down its weapons, and it's fundamental that humanitarian aid gets into Gaza. At the end of the day, we think that in order to bring back peace and security to the region, we need a two-state solution where Israelis and Palestinian people will be able to live side by side in peace and security.
And sirens blared in Tel Aviv after a missile was launched by Hezbollah in the militant group's deepest strike into Israel yet. The Israeli military said it intercepted the projectile and struck the site where it was launched from. Hezbollah said it targeted the headquarters of Israel's Mossad intelligence agency, which it blames for the killings of its commanders and for an attack in which explosives hidden in pagers killed dozens and wounded thousands, including civilians and Hezbollah members. And Hezbollah has launched dozens of rockets into northern Israel following days of heavy Israeli airstrikes across large parts of Lebanon. The Israeli military says more than 40 projectiles were launched simultaneously, though most were intercepted.
Now, switching gears right now, a woman has filed a lawsuit against Sean Diddy Combs accusing him of rape.
The internal pain after being sexually assaulted has been incredibly deep and hard to put into words.
Talia Graves claims that Combs and his head of security invited her to a meeting at a studio in 2001, drugged and raped her. The lawsuit seeks damages to be determined at trial and for all copies of an alleged video of the incident. Representatives for Combs did not return requests for comment on the new lawsuit. He is currently in jail in New York after he was arrested on charges that include sex trafficking and racketeering.
It is now 5:54, 24 degrees. This is Live at 5.
Coming up, the Blue Jays try not to get swept in 2 straight series. Exciting stuff coming up.
Well, spending data during the Toronto International Film Festival suggests people are being selective with their money.
Yeah, not that surprising when Eris data shows that the number of transactions during TIFF was up 31% compared to last year, yet total dollars spent decreased by 8%. Restaurant transactions, they were down 12%, while overall spending was down 22%. Now, for categories like jewelry or clothing stores, transactions increased 26%, but the total volume decreased by 15%.
Well, Lady Gaga will release a companion album to the new Joker film.
You can do anything you want.
The album will be called Harley Quinn in reference to her Harley Quinn character that she plays alongside Joaquin Phoenix in Joker. In 2019, Gaga won an Oscar for original song for Shallow, which she wrote and performed in the 2018 film A Star is Born. Love that movie. Harley Quinn will be released on Friday.
I wish this Blue Jays movie would end now. The Blue Jays wrap up their series against the Red Sox tonight at the Rogers Center in hopes of snapping their 5-game losing streak.
Presenting the winning run, and it's popped up and caught.
I've been calling this highlight since last night, and it hurts me every time. The Jays loaded the bases in the bottom of the 10th inning before Addison Barger bopped out. The Red Sox walked away as 6-5 victors. The Jays will look for a win tonight to avoid being swept in their second straight series. Kevin Gausman starts for Toronto. Richard Fitz for Boston. First pitch just after 7.
TFC takes on Vancouver tonight in the final of the Canadian Championship. The Reds have won the annual tournament 8 times, most recently in 2020. The winner awarded the Voyageurs Cup and a berth in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Kickoff tonight in Vancouver, set for 10 p.m.
Stay up late. It is 5:59, feeling like 31. Watch Charles Breaking News, CP24.
Thanks so much for watching. Feeling more like 31 out there. Enjoy these conditions. CTV News at 6 is coming up next. Stay with us.